everyone, this is Dr. Supreet from Department of Commerce. So today we will be talking about double taxation relief. Since in income tax we always say that no income can be taxed twice. That means whatever be your income from whatever source, it cannot be taxed twice. So in order to provide a relief for the same, there is this provision which is available under section 90 and 91 of our Income Tax Act 1961, which talks about our double taxation relief. Now, when we say double taxation, what do we mean by that? And what is a doubly taxed income? So, basically, when we say about double taxation, that means that your particular income, which is, let's suppose accrued outside India, or it may have arisen outside India, but it is subject to taxation in India also and outside India, that means a foreign country also. So, when this sort of your scenario or cases take place, that means one person, let us suppose Mr. X. So, Mr. X has earned an Indian income which is taxable in India, right? Plus additionally he got some additional income which is there accrued from the foreign sources. So, that income which is accrued from the foreign sources, it will be taxable both in the foreign country at the foreign tax rate that is applicable, plus when it will be remitted back to India, so because it will be received in India, so that will be again taxable in India also. So, this brings your case of your doubly tax income, and that is why we call it a doubly tax income, which says that one income is subject to taxation in India also and in foreign also, and basically it takes place in case of your NR who is having income that is accruing from maybe from different countries, from country A, B and C, and then when they remit back that income to India, so that gets taxable in India also. So, as to provide a relief and to go by that very basic principle or basic tenet of your income tax, which says that no income can be taxed twice. So, this relief is available under our section 90 and 91, right. So, which says that foreign income of a person is liable in two countries. So, foreign income will be liable in two countries, and those countries will be your country of income. So, this country of income will be your foreign country. As I give you an example of Mr. X. So, Mr. X will be having the income, and that income has arisen, let us suppose, from Japan, right. So, Japan will be your country of income from where the income has arisen, and country of residence, let us suppose that person is an NRI, right. So, he is having his residency in India. So, in this case he is liable for his income to be taxable in two countries, one is Japan and one is in India. Now, this double taxation of the income, it may be easily avoided by following your double taxation agreements, which we refer to as your ADT. So, basically double taxation agreements are the agreements of the government of India with the other governments, right. And when we say other governments, that means there being number of countries in the world, right. So, with different countries, India is having a specific ADT agreement. So, India is having more than 95 or 96 agreements, more than 95 or 96 ADT agreements with the foreign countries. So, that says that yes, when your government, that is your government of India, is having an agreement with the foreign government with respect to double taxation avoidance agreements, which is your ADT, it will be covered by section 90, right. So, when we have a agreement in place, we go by section 90, and which provides us the bilateral relief. That means the relief will be provided in either of the nation. Either you can take the privilege here in India, or you may take the privilege in the foreign nation, because your government is having an agreement with the other government. So, that is why your section 90 comes into place. Similarly, in case there is no ADT, that means there is no agreement of our government with the other government, which is a foreign country, which is a foreign for the foreign income. So, when there being no ADT into place, then also your government, it provides for unilateral relief. So, in India we say that if we have an agreement with the foreign country, will go by the section 90. And in case we are not having the that agreement well into place which is there with the foreign country, then also the government is providing you the relief so that your income is not taxed, right. So that relief is your unilateral relief under section 91. So one by one we will be talking about each of the section in detail at length, and we will be seeing into that what are the multiple methods through which these agreements are they take into place. So let us just start with section 90, which says that ADT agreements with various countries. So with various countries with which India is having the agreement, so that this double taxation is avoided. So basically we follow two methods. One, we have tax credit method, and the another one is your exemption method, right. So as the word says, exemption, so that basically means that the income will be exempted in one of the nation and into the another nation it will be taxable. So that is what we mean by exemption method. So let me elaborate on to the same. Let's suppose a person, Mr. X, is having the foreign income from a foreign source. Let us say that from any foreign country, and from that he has earned some income. Now India is having an ADT with that foreign nation. So what will happen? The person is eligible for the bilateral relief which is available under section 90, right. So in order to take that privilege of your section 90, you will be having two choices. Either you can go for tax credit method or you can go for exemption method. Now when we say exemption method, what will happen? That income of Mr. X will be taxable in one of the two countries. He is not supposed to pay the taxes in both the nations. So if he is already paying the taxes in India, so he will be exempted from the taxes in that foreign country, and vice versa. If he has paid the taxes in that foreign country, then his income will be exempted in India. So the particular income with respect to what your tax liability is arising, it will be taxable in one of the two countries, right. That will be your exemption method. Now when we say tax credit method, so in tax credit method what happens out is that the income is taxable in both the countries as per their respective tax laws. So let us suppose if India is having some tax rate of 30% plus the your cess or the surcharge in case where it is applicable, so it will be taxable according to that particular tax laws, right. Similarly, if a foreign country is having some taxes onto that income, so it will be respectively be taxed into that foreign country, right. Now in this under tax credit method, what will happen, that the income will be taxable in both the countries with respect to the laws and provisions of both the nations, Indian also and the foreign nation also. But the country of residence, which we say in our case for Mr. X, will be India, right. So the country of residence of taxpayer will allow him that he can avail the credit for the taxes charged onto the income that is being sourced from the foreign nation. So it says that the country of residence of the taxpayer, it allows him to take the credit for the taxes charged thereon in the country of source against the tax charged on such income in the country of residence. That means what? कि आपने जितने taxes let's suppose India में pay off करे हैं, you will get in turn whatever taxes you paid in foreign country, because we are talking about credit method. So the taxes being paid in the foreign country will get, for that you will get a credit from the taxes that you pay in the country of residence. Now just elaborating on to our existing example. Now in this case Mr. X, we say he pays the taxes in India also and in foreign country also, right. Now he will do what? After paying the, whenever he will be paying those taxes in India, so he will do what? He will claim the credit of the taxes that he already paid in the foreign country. So that means we say we do what is? We avail the credit of the taxes which being already paid in the country of your source, which is the foreign country in this case, right. So, that is how we follow the two different methods under when your this ADT agreement is in place with the other government, right. Now, what will be the effect of this ADT agreement, right, because we told that okay, if there being ADT agreement, you will be having the privilege that you can take the bilateral relief in the form of tax exemption method or tax credit method. But what will be the ultimate effect of this ADT agreement? We say that if there being no tax liability which is imposed under the act, the question of resorting to the agreement would not arise. Now, what do we say about that? We say, let's suppose अगर कोई टैक्स लाइबिलिटी आपकी इम्पोज ही नहीं हुई है, राइट, तब तो कोई प्रॉब्लम ही नहीं है, देन going to this agreement, this situation would never arise, right. No provision of the agreement can fasten your tax liability अगर liability impose ही नहीं होती है. So, that means we are not coming to this very agreement because we don't require it in its first place, right. So, no tax liability कि अगर आपका basic threshold exceed नहीं कर रहा है, taxes आपने pay ही नहीं करे हैं, तो ठीक है, आप exemption भी नहीं लेंगे, credit भी नहीं लेंगे और ADT agreement पे you will not be resorting to them. But you see, if a tax liability is imposed by the act, the government will provide you that agreement that through which you may be resorting to reduce or negate that tax liability, right. Now, अब आपने taxes बाहर pay off करें as we discussed earlier. So, those taxes if you have already paid, now you will be resorting to the agreement because you want the agreement in place. You want to relate to that so that that ultimate impact of taxes gets reduced, right. Similarly, it says in case of difference between the provisions of the act and of the agreement, the provisions of the agreement will prevail over the provisions of the act and can be enforced by the appellate authorities. And what do we mean by it? If there being any conflicting interest between the provisions of the act, which is the Taxes Act, which are there applicable in both the nations, and the conflict is there between the provisions of the act and the provisions of the agreement, then your provisions of agreement will prevail. That means they will supersede the provisions that are being given under the act. So, and that will be enforceable by the appellate authorities also. So, whenever there being a conflict, such conflicting situations being there, in case of provisions, you will be given what is, you will be giving the preferences to the provisions of the agreement rather than your provisions of the act, right. Now, when we say that these provisions of your agreement will be invoked, they are to be invoked only for specific purposes. That means, for granting the relief to the assessee if the income of the non-resident assessee. Now, why do we say non-resident assessee? Because specifically these provisions are catering to those cases where non-residents are earning the income from the foreign nation. So, these provisions of your section 90 will be invoked only when your income of non-resident assessee is chargeable to taxes as per your section 4, 5 and 9 of the Income Tax Act 1961, right. Now, if the income of that particular non-resident is not chargeable under the tax, then resorting to or invoking the provisions of section 90 would never arise. They would only arise when you are having a income which is arising from the foreign source. और अगर आपकी इनकम अराइज ही नहीं कर रही है तो आप सेक्शन 90 को इन्वोक ही नहीं करेंगे, आप उसको यूटिलाइज ही नहीं करेंगे, बिकॉज देयर बीइंग नो requirement of invoking the provisions of section 90. Clear? Similarly, we have discussed a lot about section 90, which talks about the bilateral relief and which talks about your ADT agreement and what being the comprehensive role of your ADT agreement in reducing the tax liabilities or to provide a relief in true spirit. So now next we will come to your unilateral relief, which is available under section 91. So it says, because up till now we have said that India is having an agreement for the double taxation avoidance with the second nation, right, with the foreign country. But what if there being no agreement in place? What would you resort to? In that case, the government do provides a provision in form of your these unilateral reliefs. So section 91 says that it provides for the grant of your unilateral relief in the case of resident taxpayers on income that has suffered taxes in India as well as in the country with which there is no ADT agreement. Now, we will be invoking the section 91 when there being a requirement that the person has incurred the tax liability, but we do not have any ADT agreement in place. That means our nation is not having any of agreements, ADT agreements with the second nation, with the foreign nation, right. So, what will we do in that case? We will say that we will be looking into certain requirements that are required before invoking your section 91. So, we will be seeing that okay, with respect to that doubly taxed income, if the person wants to claim any of the deductions, has he met or has she met any of the given requirements which are given under your section? So, section provides certain requirements that needs to be satisfied before an assessee is claiming for a deduction for his doubly taxed income. So, the first very point is the assessee must have been resident in India in the relevant previous year. Now, what does that mean? The assessee must have been resident in India in the relevant previous year. You will again go back to that section where we checked upon that whether the assessee is a resident or a non-resident, or is a ROR or is a RNOR, right. So, for invoking the section 91, the person must be resident in India in the relevant previous year. For assessment year, let us suppose 24-25, you will be looking into 23 and 24 कि 23-24 में assessee इंडिया में resident था या नहीं था. अगर वो इंडिया में resident ही नहीं था तो why would the Indian government would provide for unilateral relief, right? Because this being a relief which is provided by the country of residence, right? And if you not being a resident in India, right, then how would you avail for those unilateral relief? So, first thing is that unilateral relief will only be allowed if the person with respect to whom the income is being assessed and it is the specific case of your doubly tax income, he must have been resident in India. Second is, income must have accrued or arisen to him during that previous year outside India. Now, what do we mean by that? That okay, he being a resident in India, but since we are talking about doubly taxed income, he must have accrued some income which is there accruing from outside India. If that being accruing into India or arisen into India, then there being no case of your foreign income. The very case of your foreign income has arisen just because of the fact that the income has arisen or accrued to him during that previous year outside the India, right. So, that satisfy our if that satisfy your second requirement, then you move on to that third requirement that says in respect of that income which is accrued or arise outside India, he must have paid by deduction or otherwise tax under the law in force in the country in question. Now, what do we mean by that? That okay, he being a resident in India, he must have got the income from outside India, but with respect to that income which is accrued or aroused outside India, he would have paid some taxes, he must have paid some taxes, and those taxes being, let us suppose, being deducted at source only, from wherever the income has arisen, the tax is being deducted immediately, or otherwise since you have to abide by the provisions or the law of that particular country which is in question, so you have to pay those taxes, right. So in a way it means that you are a resident in India, you are having a foreign income, and with respect to that foreign income you have paid the taxes. So if you meet all these three requirements, then only you can invoke the section 91 which provides for unilateral relief. So in the second segment we will be talking about how that relief is being computed and how the benefit is taken under section 91. Thank you.